Women's bodies have been programmed and evolved for tens of millions of years to have babies. It's how we carry on the species. Our bodies are still based upon times in which child mortality was very high. Society has evolved very, very quickly. The bodies don't evolve so quickly. In the Indian tradition, we're told that we have 4 ashrams, 4 phases of life. Our student years called brahmacharya ashram. Then our householder years, marriage, children, careers, etc., called grihastha ashram phase. Then we move into vanprastha ashram and sannyasa ashram. She's getting signs and signals that maybe the grihastha ashram phase, the householder phase, isn't for her, even though she has desires for it. Well, there's 2 possibilities. One possibility is that you find a companion to walk through your spiritual path with. Grihastha ashram doesn't mean that you have to do it the same way that other people do it. It doesn't mean that you need to make money your priority or building a big house your priority. It doesn't even mean you have to have children. So you may be getting signals and signs that you are meant to be going deeper and deeper on a spiritual path. And there are people who would love to be in relationship, but not necessarily be totally stuck in just make the money and come home and spend the money and, buy a house and then buy a bigger house and buy a car and buy a bigger car and have 2 weeks of vacation a year and, send the kids to soccer games and make them dressed so nicely that the neighbors are jealous. And, there's a lot of people who really desire something deeper. I don't necessarily think that your signs mean you're absolutely not meant to do it if you still have a strong desire to. But I would sit with that desire, because if you're getting signs that say this phase of life is not for me, simply having a desire may not be enough of a reason to go against all of those signs you're getting. The desire it's programmed into us. I remember on a personal level, I came to India at 25, the age of 25. Started living here almost immediately. At the age of 29, I took official vows of sannyas, of monastic renunciation. And at the age around 31, 32, something like that, I suddenly started having these overwhelming desires for children. I would see babies, and suddenly it would be like, oh my God, baby, I have to have a baby. Babies, I need babies. I need babies. And no matter where I went, no matter who, any baby I saw, it just, in me, inspired this. It was like a wave of desire of just, oh my God, I need a baby. And I finally went to Puja Swamiji, my guru, and I said, I don't know what to do. I'm having these overwhelming desires for babies. And he said, no problem. He said, it's okay. He said, you can stop being a sannyasi. Usually it's not done, but no problem. You're very young. You didn't really know what you were getting yourself into. And he said, no problem. You can, stop being a sannyasi and we'll find you a nice Indian man to marry and you can have babies. And I said, no. I have no interest in being married. I'm not having desires for sex. I just want babies. And he looked at me and said, and who's the scientist here? Like, how in the world are you going to manifest a baby if you don't have a man? Like, what are you going to do? And he said, just sit with it then. Just see what happens. Just leave it in God's hands. And after not too much time, the desires passed. And I realized as it was going on that it was biochemical. Like, women's bodies have been programmed and evolved for tens of millions of years to have babies. It's how we carry on the species. And, early 30s starts to be kind of a peak time of, if you don't start now, you're not going to be able to have enough of them. Because remember, our bodies are still based upon times in which child mortality was very high. Society has evolved very, very quickly. The bodies don't evolve so quickly. So the way most of our bodies are programmed is going back to times in which, in order to have one child live beyond the age of 5, you needed to give birth to 10 of them. So I realized I'm just having these chemical reactions. And so I just started sitting with them, and they would rise like waves. You just sit and you realize, this is just a wave of a biochemical reaction. And slowly, slowly, slowly it dissipated. It didn't last very long. It was a few years. And of course, God sent me in the interim the most beautiful, amazing, now young woman, at the time very young little girl, to essentially adopt. But the universe works in incredible ways. So I would say, if you're getting those signs that are really strong, that you are not meant to be married, that you're not meant to have that householder phase of life, just because there's desire still, doesn't necessarily mean you're supposed to do it. Like, I knew that simply this desire was not a reason for me to somehow suddenly dump everything that was so obviously right for me, that was so obviously my Dharma. I wasn't sure how to reconcile those two things, like how we were going to bridge them together. But I knew that I was meant to stay in this Dharma. And so you learn to just sit with desire and to look at it and to see what is it really telling you? Is it really a sign or a signal for you to make a decision in your life? Or is it just the same chemical reactions that have been flooding the bodies of young women and young men for tens of millions of years? Because this is the best way to keep on the species. And just sit with it, watch it. It'll tell you.